Hey everyone, welcome to the Digital EDU Dialogues podcast. I am Angela Britcher, and joining me today is Rishi Barran from Full Sail University, where he is the department chair at the Dan Patrick School of Broadcasting, Sportscasting. Thank you for joining us today, Rishi.
It's a real pleasure to be here, Angela. Thank you for inviting me on.
And so full disclosure, Rishi and I met a long time ago working together in news. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about that journey from the field into the classroom and why it's so important that we share those real world skills with our students. And we're also going to talk about teaching for career readiness, which is so important at Full Sail, and how to develop relationships with our online students. So Rishi, let's start by, if you could share a little bit more about your journey from, when we were working together in a newsroom to working at Full Sail now.
Sure. I was in the broadcast news industry for about 15 years, most of it as an on-air anchor and reporter, but I started my career in Harrisburg, where we met. Originally, my first job there was as a photojournalist, basically a videographer, a TV person that would go out with the camera to help the reporter. And I learned so much during my 15 years in the industry. I always had a lot of fun. I've been fortunate that every job I've had full time has been something I enjoyed. And eventually I wanted to pass that down to the next generation and also to give them that same opportunity I had. And I developed kind of an enjoyment of the mentorship part of it. As I went longer in my career, I would have reporters from different stations send me their work, ask for it to be looked at and critiqued. And I would go pretty in depth with them, and I enjoyed it. They would come back for more. And at a certain point, I said, I think my future, once I decide to kind of get out of the day-to-day grind of the TV news business, would be teaching. And fortunately, I got that opportunity here at the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting at the right time in my life. So here I am. Now I get to pass it down and watch all of them go out and succeed, which they've been doing.
I love hearing that story, because my journey is very much the same. That idea of, we love what we do in news, and then you get to really share that passion. It just in a different way, and getting to see our students succeed is by far the most rewarding part of being in this part of our careers. And so you gave me some statistics when we met before about the success of the program that you're working now. So if you could talk a little bit more about that, because it's a really unique program that you guys have there.
Yeah, our program literally just celebrated its 6th birthday. So a very special thing for us to be involved with this for 6 years. I've been here for most of the 6 years. So I was here when our program literally was just a bunch of ideas, and we built each class. The great thing about Full Sail University is it's very hands-on, and it's less about what's in a textbook and more about what are you doing hands-on in the industry. So basically we hired a bunch of instructors who have worked in the industry, and they shared all their different ideas of what they thought was important. So we've gone from that point to now having graduates literally living all over the world. We have students working in more than 35 states and at least 3 different countries. I know we have at least 160 students that are working now. And keep this in mind, we just started graduating in 2019, the end of 2019. Our program's a little different because it's fast-paced. Basically, you can get a 4-year degree in 2 years because of the pace of the program and what we're asking them to do. So it's been a short amount of time we've had graduates, but they've gone on to have success. We have one of the members of our original program, our first class that went through. He went from us and being not even 21 years old to taking a job in Bakersfield, California, where he worked for a couple of years, both in news and sports. And now he works in Los Angeles, in the 2nd biggest market in the country, on the air. So it's been incredible to see them go through these journeys. And honestly, it's a little mind-blowing. If I really step back and look at it, I would have done this and moved on to this job just to impact a few lives, but to see how grateful they are from the experience they had with us, it's a little overwhelming to think about how many people that we've had come through our program who are now, as I like to say, living their dream, much like I got to do.
Yeah, and that much success so fast. So you talked about the rapid pace of the program. Let's start there, and then we'll talk about some of the other qualities that make this program so successful that it's launching these careers so quickly. So tell us about the short classes that you have.
Yeah, it's for campus students. It was a 20-month program on campus. We do have a couple of short breaks, but they're only for a week or two. This year we had 3 for the holidays, but that's a rarity. And then they go through the program, learning classes about specific things. We have 15 courses for our program, specifically the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. This all started when Dan Patrick, the legendary sportscaster, who I know you're a big fan of his show to this day, he thought that when he used to work at ESPN, that these students that would come in as like, entry-level positions at ESPN, he felt like, how do they not know this? How do they not know that? And so he decided that he wanted to start something that was very much a program where you did what you needed to learn when you started in the industry, regardless of what level you were at. So he started this. He teamed with Full Sail University, which is as high-tech a school as you're going to find. It was the perfect arrangement and marriage between the two sides. And our courses are very specific. They are 1 month long. It's different than your 2 or 3 semesters a year. They're very intense, fast-paced. You got to have the right mindset coming in that you're willing to do that, but it very much mimics what the industry is like with tight deadlines and things like that. Specific courses and things like how to properly interview someone, diversity in the modern media, which we call how not to get fired, basically, by not doing things that offend people. And obviously the inclusion of this industry and trying to make sure that you are treating everyone with respect, to broadcast writing, to how to put together a good package, reporter package, to live shots, to at the end of the program, we kind of put it all together with some technology classes and also my class, the final class before you graduate, where we kind of blend everything together. And the goal is simple. When you graduate from us, we want everyone who graduates to be good enough to get their first job. Some are at a higher level than others. Some can really shine right away. Some need a little bit more work, but that's our goal. Get everybody a job. And so far it's been going pretty well.
There's such an emphasis right now on that return on investment of a college education and employability skills and career readiness. And it sounds like Full Sail is doing just that. You are getting students ready. And I really appreciate what you said about this idea that people are coming to ESPN and Dan Patrick's going, why don't they know how to do this? I was just in a discussion board with students earlier today, and they were working on a skill. And I responded to them, 30 years ago, when I was in your seat, no one had taught me that skill. And I wish I had known it back then. They were watching me model it in a video and they're like, oh, you did this so well. And I was like, right, when I was your age, I didn't know how to do it either. And I wish someone had taught me, but I also want you to know this is a skill you can learn. And I'm so glad that I learned it once I got into the workplace. So I'm so grateful to hear that there are programs now where we are teaching students so they are ready. So let's talk a little bit more about some of the things that you do to get students ready for that first job. When you talk about the skills that they learned, as well as like professionalism, communication, you talked about deadlines. Talk about the ways that you incorporate that into your curriculum and your expectations.
Yeah, it's all building blocks, right? You got to start somewhere. When you come in, we have a great range of different people who come to us. Some of them have had prior journalism and broadcast experience, whether it's doing their own podcast like you're doing right now or whatever it is. And some of them have no background whatsoever. So you kind of have to meet both needs. So it's basically giving them the basic building blocks on how to do it. Our first class, Introduction to Sportscasting, we have a lot of people that worked at ESPN in our building that are instructors. Our program director worked there for more than 20 years, worked specifically with Dan Patrick for a long time. And what they decided was the first class, after one class, you're going to have enough of an education where you're basically doing the training that ESPN would have for a production assistant. So they're learning how to put together the documents, whether it be a shot sheet for highlights, a cut sheet for, the people back in production that they need that for, properly running the right graphics and the right videos and all that kind of stuff. So we give you a building block on all of it and build your way up. As far as professionalism and that kind of thing, that's really important to us. And I think what we've been proudest of our program is the students that come in, you see their growth, both professionally and personally. And I don't think there's been a single student who's come through our program who has not matured, whether they be a 19-year-old or a 52-year-old. We've seen them grow as people. And that's what we're proudest of, is that the people that come out of our program, we haven't had a lot of, in this industry, you'll get all kinds of different people, some people with bigger egos than others. We've been very fortunate not to have a lot of that, or those that maybe had a little bit of that. They understood the teamwork that goes into it, the humility that's needed to succeed in this industry at the highest level. So, we do mock interviews with them. We have them go through how to properly put their resumes together. Full Sail has a whole department called career development, which basically their job is to get you a job. And then in our classwork, we just try to teach all the skills as much as we can. We can't go in depth on everything, but at least create the building blocks that you need, that when you go to a new job, you already know what they're talking about. And we found from people who've interviewed for certain jobs and heard this from hiring managers that a lot of the times our students have stood out in the interview process way above the other people that were finalists for the jobs, because we are emphasizing so many particulars about the professionalism and the specifics of knowledge you need from the industry to get going.
Awesome. And again, I just we need more programs that are teaching our students not just the skills they need for the job, but how to be the person who's going to get hired for the job. And so it's so great to hear that they're coming out, that they're job ready, they're ready for that first interview, and they're ready to get started that first day because they know how to behave like a professional in the workplace. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about online. We're going to talk about designing for online, creating media online from a media professional, and about how you connect with your online students. So we'll be back in 30 seconds.
This episode of DigitalEDU Dialogues is brought to you by the BAB Group. The demands for teaching and online learning are constantly evolving. Don't get left behind. Carve out a competitive edge and give students engaging learning experiences with support from the BAB Group's team of course design experts. As experienced online faculty and instructional designers, the BAB Group knows how to craft those aha moments for students and meet outcomes for every modality: online, hybrid, and face-to-face. Creating engaging, welcoming, and inclusive learning spaces for students of all ages and abilities has never been more important. Discover how the BAB Group can help you by visiting their website today.
Thanks for joining us. I'm back with Rishi Barran, and we are talking about designing for online. And I want to start by, if you could tell us more about how you guys were already prepared before the pandemic, that you had curriculum set up, ready to go, and talk about that online experience for you guys.
Yeah, it was amazing as someone new to Full Sail University when I came, what they had going for the online program already throughout all their different degrees that they offer, both graduate, bachelor's, associates, several different categories. And I was new to online education. I had never been an online student. I had never taught a class online. And what I quickly learned was the most important thing about it is you need to connect with those students. The online graduation rates nationwide, worldwide, are much lower than campus students because it's difficult. It requires a lot of self-motivation from students. It requires a lot of buy-in, and they don't kind of have that teacher that day-to-day in class that's policing over them, making sure they're doing their stuff. There are ways to do that online, which we do at Full Sail. So back to your question, when I came to Full Sail and the pandemic hit, I found that every single class at Full Sail had an online version of it. So a lot of other schools, they were kind of playing catch up when the pandemic hit. We already had these pieces in place. So obviously we had to make some adjustments, right? In teaching broadcasting, teaching sportscasting, if there's a pandemic and no one is allowed on campus at the time, you can't be in the studio. So how do you do that? Well, things like what I got behind me now. We went and took a lot of pictures and created all these virtual backgrounds. We had like 200 of them that we'd send to them. And fortunately, that was about the time when streaming services and recording services like this one offered options to help make it easier to communicate. So we were ready. We had classes in place. I did have to adjust a little bit for my campus class because we wanted to still make there some special things about that. But honestly, because we had the online classes already built and in a good place, it was very simple to just transition. We had everything, the structure was all in place to just have them adjust how they submitted their work and did their work.
And all right, so you come from a media background, you know what it is to make a good video. Talk about the kinds of videos that you have in your online classrooms. You shared with me a little bit about the 5-minute videos that you create.
The reality of the world today is people's attention spans are shorter than ever. And one thing we teach early on in our broadcast writing class is even people who are really wanting to tune in, a lot of people watch and listen passively, right? You might have the TV on and be cooking dinner. You might be in another room and you kind of need to hear the person's voice because you might not be able to see what's on the screen. So always, one thing we teach is always never make the assumption that your audience is fully tuned into you. You have to connect with them and hit on the high moments. So in terms of creating video content for online classes, our goal was, over time, this evolved at Full Sail, was to create, as you said, short 5-minute or so videos that touch on main topics. One of the classes I teach, the main one that I teach now, we have a section for each week, which is their lessons, and we call it the starting 5. And it's basically the 5 main lessons that they need to learn to be successful in that week and to learn the lessons we want them to in that week. So, it could be, for example, could be a week about, shooting stand-ups and packages. And maybe one of the lessons is shooting good stand-ups. Maybe one of the lessons is about how to use your sound bites in a way that connect with your audience. One of the lessons is about how to write your package well to video. And you have to connect quickly. We use visuals. We use the Keynote program and slides and things like that to give visuals. We have examples. Fortunately, now we've had a lot of students graduate, so we can show student examples of how to do it and give them a visual that connects with them. So the short videos connect with them. And we also have videos sometimes explaining what the assignment details are. So it makes it easier for them to understand. It's one thing to read something. It's another to have a video. So we try to teach things multiple different ways because people connect in different ways. Some people prefer to read. Some people prefer to watch videos. Some people prefer to see examples. So we try to offer as much as possible to hit the learning spots for everybody in their own selective styles.
That's a great point, Rishi. The idea that we need to give our students multiple options to intake the information, whether it's learning styles, it's something we all talk about, but sometimes I find with my students, they can't access a video right when they need it. Either they're out somewhere, or sometimes I have dual enrolled high school students and they can't access their college curriculum on their, high school laptop or like in the high school Wi-Fi. And so I think that idea of giving our learners multiple ways to engage with the material is so important. And you guys are really setting that example of how it works. One other thing I want to talk with you about is how you engage successfully with your online students. And I talked about this a little bit, the idea that, we need to keep them engaged. We need to reach out to them in different ways than we do with our face-to-face students.
Yeah, and I think communication is the key to that, right? If I just saw this quote from Teddy Roosevelt the other day, and I think it was something to the tune of, you think, I'm going to mess it up, so I don't think I'll go there, but it's something about to the tune of, they don't know something unless they know how much you care, right? So it's the type of thing where if they don't know you care about them, they're only going to be so invested. So if they have a question for you, try to respond quickly. Try to do it within 24 hours. Attempt to reach out to them proactively. I generally send a message during the week every day, some message, whether it's reminding them of due dates or giving them some other resources that can help them. I probably over communicate, but I found that it's helped for them to feel connected to you. And then the availability, if you want to jump online with them and talk. We do have meetings every week, a couple times a week that they can join in, whether join in the campus class or just talk specifically with the instructors. So it's being open to them. It's answering their questions. And the other thing is clarity, right? It's easy for people that have taught a subject to get bogged down in the words that are used in the industry. Sometimes they don't understand that. You have to really break it down to the basics. Don't make any assumptions about what they do and don't know. And if they ask you a question, clarify it as well as possible.
That's a great point about clarity online. And I think not just our jargon that we use, our industry jargon, but I find too in their first few classes, sometimes there's just that technology to overcome, right? Like how to use the classroom, or maybe not every classroom is set up exactly the same. So, being available for those questions to help them overcome any barrier that's going to get in the way of them submitting that assignment on time, or that's going to make them frustrated about the work, to be available to answer those questions. Like you said, to meet online, another great way to connect with our learners.
Let me share that quote. I have it in my phone, the Teddy Roosevelt quote I was talking about. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So that's what we try to do, because you might be an expert at something, but if they don't think you care about them, it could be in one ear out the other. But when they know they care about you, or that you care about them, then they're going to be more attentive.
Absolutely. I shared with you when we first started chatting today, I had some former students pop into class the other night, and I thought they were just stopping by for snacks, which they may have been. And I care about them. I teach over dinner, and it's part of my thing to bring snacks. And we just had a great relationship when they were in class with me. So they decided to stay, and they had a class takeover. And I thought, this is why I do this. So I was like, they made my semester to just stop in and hang out and want to visit, and wanted to talk with my current students about what they were doing and share the skills that they had learned. So I think building those relationships is an essential part of their learning.
That's amazing. And I'm so glad to hear that you've built that connection with them and they feel that comfortable to come back in and spend time with you. I'm sure that meant a lot to them, more than you'll know. And I know it probably meant a lot to you too.
It absolutely I was like, this made my semester, makes it all worthwhile knowing that they know that they can pop in for conversations anytime. All right, Rishi, anything else you want to share with us about teaching online, about getting career ready, anything you think is really important?
Yeah, I think students enjoy hearing stories about, if you have career experience, they like to hear that kind of stuff. So one way you can connect with them, the class isn't about you, the class is about them. But at the same time, if you can share some of your experiences, kind of that inside knowledge from the industry and things that have happened, that's one way to catch their attention right away. It's difficult sometimes when you have a student that, some students communicate better than others. Some students, listen better than others. But always take the perspective when you're talking to them. Full Sail is very big on empathy and understanding where they come from. It's easy to say, okay, this student made an excuse about whatever reason that the student didn't get the work in. It's easy to dismiss that if it sounds a little questionable. Try to give them the benefit of the doubt. There may be exceptions to that, but try to work with them and at least give them an opportunity to succeed. The more you're willing to work with them, the more they're able to, meet their, whatever it is they're trying to do as being part of your program. So I say, listen to them. You don't really know the shoes they walk in, especially online students. There might be things going on in their lives that they don't tell you because it's very personal. So one piece of advice I got when I started early on, we had an orientation program. Full Sail is really good about educating the instructors on basically how to be good teachers. And one piece of advice that I got early on was, you never know when an interaction with a student is going to be a defining moment for them. So whether it's a good interaction or a bad interaction, you might think nothing of this moment. Somebody comes up to you to ask a question about something. It may be something very minor, but if you handle it well, you might make a huge boost to the rest of their life. If you handle it the wrong way, it could go the other way. So try to just be present in those moments and do the best you can every day. Try to keep your focus on them while you're there. It's very difficult sometimes when you're trying to get a lot of things done, but we're here for them. So do your best to understand them, to work with them, and give them every chance to succeed you can.
Great advice, Rishi, that giving them the chance to succeed and really modeling listening and empathy while we're in our classrooms. Thank you so much for making the time to join me today.
It's been a great time. It's you are such someone I'm so impressed with, have been since the first day I met you. You meant a lot to me. I learned a lot from you. So very happy to get to connect with you again, and always here if you need anything.
Thank you so much, Rishi.
This episode of DigitalEDU Dialogues is brought to you by the BAB Group. The demands for teaching and online learning are constantly evolving. Don't get left behind. Carve out a competitive edge and give students engaging learning experiences with support from the BAB Group's team of course design experts. As experienced online faculty and instructional designers, the BAB Group knows how to craft those aha moments for students and meet outcomes for every modality, online, hybrid, and face-to-face. Creating engaging, welcoming, and inclusive learning spaces for students of all ages and abilities has never been more important. important. Discover how the BAB Group can help you by visiting their website